Today we're talking low-tech sleep habits. Now you guys know that using your screens throughout the day can also have an impact into the night. It can impact how well our sleep is, how restful it is. I know that for myself, when I use my screen late into the evening, it can really have an effect on my sleep. I don't get as much of a nice sleep. It's like definitely more disturbed. I end up waking up almost as tired as when I went to bed. It's not the best. So over the last couple of years, I've been taking a few different steps with how my sleep hygiene is, I guess, how my routine is around sleep. And that has really helped improve the quality of my sleep and how rested I feel when I wake up. So today I want to talk about the 3 low-tech sleep habits that I've been doing in order to really maximize the quality of my sleep and wake up as rested as possible. If you don't know me, I'm Spencer. I like to talk about simple living, frugality, and the low-tech lifestyle. So let's get started with sleep tip number 1. So the first one, it's pretty classic, but it is tried and true and I recommend it. And that is just ditching the screens at least 1 hour before going to sleep. Now, you've heard this before. I'm sure pretty much anybody who talks about getting a good sleep talks about this, but it really is key. You want to ditch that blue light exposure or whatever else bad things come from looking at a screen before bed. You just want to ditch that stimulation before you go to bed. Blue light or not, let's just ditch the blue light part. You want to ditch that stimulation before you go to sleep. Having that flashing light in your eyes, having all the constant stimulation of the endless scroll, or whether it's just looking at various web pages, that can really get your brain pretty active and just pretty firing before you go to sleep. And that's going to give you a lot of things that you're probably still going to be thinking about as you're going to sleep. And it's going to make it hard for your brain to shut down. Now, I'm not a scientist here, but that's just personal experience for me. I know that when I have been winding myself up online, whether it's by looking at things that agitate me or that excite me in a different way, or just things that are interesting to me, things that get my brain turning, I go to sleep thinking about all the things that I have to do or thinking about the things that I have just seen or read. And that really can keep my brain from turning off. And it makes it a hard thing for me to actually fall asleep. Sometimes I'll be tossing and turning for half an hour, 45 minutes until I fall asleep. And that just ruins your sleep right off the bat. So the thing that I really like to do is just completely ditch my phone, computer, or even a TV before bed, at least for 1 hour, just to allow my body to wind down and really come to grips with the fact that it is nighttime. Most likely you're going to bed at around a time where it is getting dark. The sun will be down and it will be dark. But if you're constantly exposing yourself to the bright flashing lights of screens, it's hard for your body to kind of really click into the fact that it should be winding down. It kind of gives that artificial daylight impression and it keeps your body from shutting itself down for the day. I read something about this recently about how our circadian rhythms kind of get out of whack when we're spending our entire time surrounded by artificial lighting, whether it's overhead lighting in our homes just to light our rooms, or whether it's the light that's emanating from the screens that we interact with. These types of things can really have a negative effect on our sleep, and it's important to make sure that we minimize that at least for the last hour before going to bed so our body can get the memo that we're hoping to shut it down sometime soon. So this is kind of a bonus tip. It's not really one of the tips. Maybe we can call it tip 1.5, but I have been trying to not drink so much coffee throughout the day. I'm trying to cut down my caffeine, or at least change my caffeine to lower caffeine beverages that are still going to allow me to have that level of energy, but aren't going to give me that jittery thing that continues on throughout the day, as well as that crash and stuff that really impacts my sleep. Because for me, having that level of caffeine can really affect my sleep. I work in the film industry, and with my work in the film industry, we're working really long days. Like the average day is 12 hours, and most days can get longer than 12 hours. Overtime is very common, and a 14-hour day is pretty common, and a 16-hour day is not uncommon. So people are pretty much fueled on Red Bull, Monster, and coffee in the film industry. And for me, my vice of choice is coffee. I drink coffee throughout the day when I'm working, and it does impact my sleep. I can have a coffee pretty late into the day just to keep me working and productive as I want to finish up that day on set. But then I get home, and then my sleep is pretty much trashed from all of that caffeine so late into the day. So recently what I've been drinking is these shots from Magic Mind. Now Magic Mind is a mental productivity shot. They have 12 magical ingredients, including beet extract. I think there's passion fruit in there. There's ceremonial grade matcha, which is like the highest grade of matcha from Japan, as well as organically grown mushrooms like cordyceps and lion's mane, all which help with focus and energy. So I've been drinking Magic Mind for the past 7 days. I took the Magic Mind 7-day challenge, and I gotta say, I'm really enjoying this and I am impressed. I do feel a difference, and I feel like though I still want to have my coffee in the morning, this isn't a coffee replacement. It's more of a complement to your morning coffee, and it kind of helps continue that feeling of energy and productivity throughout the day without the jitters and the crash. Now, I gotta be honest, as somebody who talks a lot about frugality, these things aren't priced extremely low. But if it's in your budget and you prioritize your health and your productivity, this might be a good option for you. So if you're interested in trying some Magic Mind yourself, I've put my unique link in the description. You can click through that and you can get a discount, which is special for my audience, on your own pack of Magic Mind. Thank you very much to Magic Mind for partnering with me on this video. I very much appreciate the support. Now let's get back to it. So moving on to tip number 2, read. Books, books, books. You need to read books in that last hour before you're going to bed. Now, I like to read, and I've talked about a lot of the different books which I read. I like to read a lot of stuff on simple living, frugality, and the low-tech lifestyle, the stuff that I talk about here. One of my favorite times to read during the day is right before I'm going to bed. You know, the sun's went down, I'm no longer using my screen, and I'm trying to get cozy with a book and slowly wind down for the night to fall asleep. You may have to be careful what type of book you're reading as you're falling asleep, because if you're reading something that you perceive to be very exciting, some sort of big adventure story or something like that, that you're going to want to keep turning the page until it's completely finished, that might not be the one to shut down the day with. However, I don't really find that for myself. I can pretty much read anything, and once I'm laying down and actually reading, it doesn't take too long before I'm nodding off. So I like to sit up and read for a little while, and then I slowly end up leaning back and continuing to read, and then pretty soon I'm out like a light. It doesn't really matter what I'm reading. It usually puts me to bed eventually. Sometimes I'll wind down reading the book that I happen to be reading day to day, just try to finish a little bit more of that book. However, I'll sometimes keep a book around that I've already read that I just want to revisit a few, just kind of key moments throughout that book, a favorite chapter or a favorite excerpt of that book. And that'll also give me something to kind of reflect on and to think about, that kind of, it allows my mind to just have something to focus on rather than just kind of trailing itself around and keeping myself awake. It's almost kind of like a counting sheep type exercise, I guess. One of my favorite books to just keep beside the bed is Walden, and that's one that I go back to almost every night. If I'm not reading the main book that I'm reading, I'll sometimes just open here and read a few pages as I'm falling asleep, and that really helps me kind of get into a calm headspace where I have something I can kind of dream about as I'm falling asleep and dozing off, and my mind's not just wandering every which way. Sometimes I find that's a really good thing to have something kind of peaceful after you're even done putting the book down for the night, that your mind can just kind of hone in and focus on as you fall asleep. So for me, reading about Henry Thoreau's simple life in his cabin on Walden Pond, it's really nice for me. I can just kind of shut it down for the night. I've turned off the light, and I'm just kind of picturing the fire crackling away at Walden, and Thoreau writing in his journal by his lamp light and whatever it is, and that helps me fall asleep myself. Sometimes I'll also turn off the electric light and I'll opt for something like a candle, especially reading something like Thoreau. It kind of it really gets the mood going, and it helps you just wind down and feel that cozy vibe. And for me, it helps fall asleep. It really does help me fall asleep. Just to give you guys another insight into the stuff that I'm reading right now, another book that I've been reading lately is one that I've had for over 10 years, I think. I lent it to my best friend, and he recently lent it back to me, and it's just such an awesome book. It's called The Benjamin Franklin Diet. It's just what a weird topic for a book, but there's pretty much books on everything. So this is one that I don't even know how I heard about this. I was just really into Ben Franklin in my early 20s. I guess thinking about his 13 virtues and his virtuous life that he was trying to live as a young man. I was interested in that. And then I came across this book called The Ben Franklin Diet because many people don't know Benjamin Franklin was for the most part vegetarian during the 1700s in America. And that is something that he attributes to his lifelong health. You know, he lived to be, I think, 84 or in his 80s at some point, in a time where the average life expectancy was like 40 years old. And he, you know, is kind of known to be this kind of little old man who's maybe kind of a little bit chubby. He was throughout his life actually in pretty good shape. He ate very well, and he also exercised every day. And that's not something that is often depicted in the old man art that is like, you know, mainly seen of him. And this book is kind of to set the record straight, as well as it includes a bunch of different colonial recipes that are also happen to be vegetarian. Colonial corn chowder, Pennsylvania Dutch potato soup. I cook a lot of this stuff at home because I like to use kind of simple from scratch ingredients, and I also like to cook historical meals as a fun thing. And this is, again, just kind of a similar vibe for me to Walden, where I'm able to kind of read this and I'm transported back to a simpler time, and I have my candle light going, and then I blow my candle out to go to bed, and I have something sweet to dream about. Yeah, this is just kind of a bit of a funny one, but I wanted to show you guys what I've been reading lately, and this is it. Okay, so moving on to the final tip number 3 for a good quality and low tech sleep. This one might seem a little controversial, but do not close your blinds when you go to bed. Now, I'm not sure exactly where I got this one from. I think I just kind of winged this one day because I thought, yeah, it might be a good idea. So like most people, I do not enjoy waking up that much. You know, it's not to sound super depressing like I don't enjoy waking up that much, but I mean, the peace and the solace that I find in sleep is often stolen from me with the loud kind of ringing of the alarm. It kind of just butts into my dreams, wakes me up, shakes me awake. It's a jolt. It kind of ruins any of the peace that I've found overnight, as I said. And I wanted to find a way in which I could still kind of carry that into the morning. So for me, something that I started trying probably like 8 months ago now was I left the blinds open when I went to sleep. Now, I still kept them kind of drawn, but I left them like half open, you know, so all of the light can still stream into the room when the sun comes up in the morning. Now, when the sun is going to come into your room is going to drastically change depending on where you're located and the time of year. So by allowing the sun to come into my room, especially in the summer, it allows me to wake up with the natural light coming into the space and filling my space rather than having to jolt myself awake with the loud noise of an alarm. You know, people pay a decent chunk of change to get one of those big kind of orb sunlight alarms that wake up in this similar way, where like maybe whenever you set it to wake up, it's going to slowly bring artificial light into your space and then wake you up in a natural way, similarly to if you let the sun come into your room, like I'm saying. But instead of doing that, instead of blacking out your room and then having this device here to create an artificial sun, why don't you just let the sun come into your room and do it that way? Now, this isn't going to work for every single person with every single job at every single time of the year. It's going to vary depending on your situation, but I'm sure no matter what your situation is, there is at least a few months, certain times a year, where you can utilize this tip and use it to improve your sleep. Now, no, I don't need to wake up super early in the morning with the sun every single morning, especially when I'm off. Maybe you'd think sleeping in is such a good thing, but I would argue that this is a really good way to go. I'm still getting a really good amount of sleep. I still get 8-9 hours of sleep every single night. If I'm waking up at 6 in the morning with the sun, I'm probably going to go to bed at around 9:30 because I'm tired at night. I more so line myself up. I align myself with the rhythms of the sun, and my circadian rhythm is kind of restored as a result because I'm not living my entire life under the command of artificial light, right? I'm going back to kind of aligning myself with the rhythms of the sun, rising and falling with the sun. And that allows me to have a better sleep overall. I would argue that that one tip is probably like my secret weapon for having a really good sleep. And it's something that I don't really hear a lot of people talking about. It is, do not close your blinds when you go to sleep. You can close them enough, as I said, so you can obscure yourself if you're worried about somebody peeking in your window. You know, we live on the ground floor. I don't want to have my window fully open that somebody could look in at me sleeping. So I have it, you know, closed enough for privacy, but it's going to still allow the rays of the sun to come in and fully illuminate the room in the morning. And I have found that that has just been a game-changing tip for me. Letting the sun naturally wake you up rather than letting some sort of device do it is the best way to go if that works with your schedule. And at some point in the year, I'm sure it will. So give it a try. So that is just about it for today, guys. Just my 3 tips for a low tech good night's sleep. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you have used any of these tips before. Let me know which ones you are using, and let me know if you have any tips of your own that I did not share today, and share them with me and with us down below in the comments. I would love to hear from you. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.